Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
First, our heartfelt thanks to all you listeners for the love you have shown for permitting the Software People Stories to be part of your listening time over the last 200 weeks. Your wishes and encouragement is what has kept us going and will continue to do so. Thank you. This is a very special episode for the Software People Stories. This is the 200th episode. So, for this occasion, we have two guests, Sowmya Gopalan and Ramya Gopalan, twin sisters, now working at two of the IT giants doing leading edge work. They have very interesting stories of their careers and perspectives. This episode is also special as we have all the three hosts present. We will be publishing this conversation in two parts. This is part one, where Sowmya and Ramya share how they got into IT and how they chose engineering for their studies, about their experiences and thoughts on developing leading edge solutions, some of them embedded, and what they learned from their early experiences, including a disappointing experience when the market acceptance of a fairly unique feature was somewhat underwhelming, as well as the thrill of knowing that the code that you wrote was actually getting into production and is being used. They also share how they bounce off ideas and support each other, and their mantra to start simple and keep moving. The difference having or not having some shoulder to cry on or somebody to bounce off your thoughts on could make on an individual. We conclude this episode with a question of how they nurture or develop younger professionals. The answer to that question and a lot more insights, some technical and many other on the softer aspects such as work-life harmony, will all be in part two of this conversation. Don't miss the next episode coming up next week. Meanwhile, listen on to the first part of our conversation. Hi Ramya, hi Sowmya, welcome to the Software People Stories.
Hello, hi all of you. Nice to be here. We have listened to many, and Appa has obviously told a lot about this podcast and the people who make it happen. So nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you all.
Yeah, and as you know, this is for a very special episode of ours, that is the 200th episode. And that's why we thought having two of you rather than one guest is going to be super special. So, you know the general format. We have all the hosts also on this show. Chitra and Gayatri are also here. So we'll start with your origin story and then take it from there.
Sure. So my origin story, let's see. I don't want to reveal my age, but I'm pretty old. I'm an engineer in electronics and communication. I did my bachelor's in RV College of Engineering. Why I got into engineering, I think I always had a love for math. I used to love that subject in school, and it came pretty naturally to me. I knew I didn't like biology, so it really made the decision easy when I got into college. And also our father, Gopalan, is an engineer. So I think that also inspired us to become an engineer, us in the sense, Ramya and me. So I did bachelor's in electronics and communication in RV. And after that, I wanted to study further. So wanted to pursue higher education. And so decided to do a master's in signal processing, which was one of my favorite subjects in electronics and communication in RV. So that's what I did at Ohio State University. Post that, wanted to find a job. Actually, I was in two minds. I didn't know whether I wanted to do a PhD or wanted to do a job or get into the industry. And I think at that point, I did seek advice from my father. And he said, it's probably good to get some exposure into the industry before you decide what you want to do in terms of higher education. So started looking for jobs here, found something in the wireless domain. And at that point, the job market wasn't so great. So started with an internship in Interdigital, which is a wireless communications company. So did about a year there, worked on physical layer algorithms, so a lot of simulation on cognitive radio applications. So that's what I started off with. But my interest has always been image processing and and anything to do with images and videos. That's what I had specialized in masters. So found a job at Amazon. They were starting a new project, which was in some way a startup like project where it was something that they were envisioning for the future. Interviewed for a role here and got a job. Spent about close to 8 years in Amazon. First 4 years was on this new project, which was pretty cutting edge. Even for now is pretty cutting edge. Spent about 4 years there. Moved on to other projects because that project didn't see the light of the day, at least at that day. And again, 4 more years in Amazon. Finally released something. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Echo product line, but there is a computer vision feature in that product which I worked on, which I am proud of, was proud of at that time. Decided to try something new and moved to Apple. And I've been at Apple for about 4 years now, 3.5 years now. Again, continue to work on image and video processing applications, specifically on the camera and photos app that you probably use if you use an iPhone. So that's been my history.
Yeah. Fantastic, Sowmya. I have so many questions to ask you. Maybe we will hear from Ramya, her origin story, and then we'll probably start.
Yeah, I also wanted to understand if Sowmya, you say that you're old, I don't know what I should call myself.
Same here.
Older.
But
if you're of my father's thinking, then you'll call yourself under 40.
Yeah. That's too old for me. I'm still considered a teenager.
Okay. Age is just a number. Yeah, so my story is pretty much similar to Sowmya's. So in school, I've always liked math class. And one thing while getting into making the decision between computer science and biology, I knew I didn't want to do biology. I was horrible at memorizing things, and I had a love for mathematics. So computer science was an easy choice for me at that time. Same as Sowmya, and we used to do all our math homework and all the problem solving together, so that it made it more fun. So yeah, got into computer science, wrote the common entrance test, got into RV, did telecom, Sowmya did electronics, graduated. We knew we wanted to study further. We knew we were not ready for a job. So we applied for masters, got into Ohio State, shared the same advisor as Sowmya, did signal processing and communications, again, interned in the same company, and then landed a job in Amazon. So I specialize in audio signal processing. So a lot of the front end signal processing and the speech enhancement technologies that go into the Echo products is what I kind of work on. I worked on it for 8 years, and now I'm part of the health org in Amazon. So it's more, it's machine learning and signal processing based solutions for health applications. So yeah, the core has been machine learning and signal processing, but yeah, that's been constant from the time I've worked. So that's pretty much it, I guess.
So Ramya, what you said has far-reaching implications, I think, in our home. We have Alexa, Echo, and everything else that's going to follow. I'm very sure it's going to make its way home. I already have family members wishing Alexa good morning. I don't get the same love and attention.
Yeah, I mean, all complaints, Alexa complaints come to me, and I say I'm no longer part of Alexa. I'm now moved on to the health org. So it's been a good journey in Amazon. Actually, I think the time Sowmya moved to Apple, I tried to look as well, but then I found a good position within Amazon itself. And at that time, I kind of wanted to do something outside of audio, and luckily found something in the health org. So it's been fun.
I'll probably start. This is a very unique role that you're playing, right? While it is software, particularly the SaaS software or the something in the cloud, you pretty much can keep changing. As and when there's a problem, or as and when there's a new feature and functionality, right? But the way I've understood what you're doing, it's more of an embedded software that you're working, right? How does the incremental way of working really impacted you when you started off? Particularly when you make a change, pretty much out of your hands, right? It's going to your consumers, and there's no way for you to make an update as and when you want to, unless there's a next update, you have to do it. So what is your thought process on that? And what were your early challenges to tackle this?
So maybe I'll go first. Yeah, even I have been pretty much in the embedded software domain. Nothing stops me from going to the cloud side of things in terms of my expertise. But yeah, all my development has been embedded. And I think in terms of challenges, like you said, we have to be thorough when we make a release. There are future releases where you do bug fixes. But that's pretty much, they try to rule that out by a really solid QA process. And the timelines are quite aggressive, where you get your feature complete, or what they call, at least by definition, and spec complete very soon. And they're given a really long soak time for polish and QA. So there is high confidence when there is something that's released that it's going to work as expected. We do notice field issues, and there are some high severity issues that are raised based on bugs, but we do try and minimize it because we have this long QA period. So it's pretty rigorous in terms of how releases are made. Especially as we get closer to release, we try and cut down our updates, and it can be as early as 4 months before, 5 months before, where you don't try and update your software just as you build. So that's been my experience, at least.
And I guess one thing I want to add is, sometimes in Amazon, at least, if it meets a certain customer satisfaction, even if the objective performance is maybe not up to par. So we have like a pool of participants who test out the features. And so even if it like meets a certain customer satisfaction or a subjective expectation, then the features are released, at least within Amazon, at least. And it's a very streamlined process, like Sowmya mentioned. It goes through its testing and then sign-offs, and yeah, there is a lead time to actually getting things into the build and into customer hands. But one thing that they do look for is also the subjective satisfaction, or the customer satisfaction. So I mean, we have even released things with probably there are bugs, but then if the overall experience is good, I guess that confidence is also valued.
Any stories that you want to share here in terms of saying, aha, I should have done this better, or I learned something from here, and things like that? Any thoughts, any funny moments?
Yeah, I think one thing that we tend to forget is we are working in this really cross-functional environment, and there are these really hard dates. So it's very important to realize when your cutoff is, because these dates are really aggressive. So in Apple, there are these bug review boards. So once you get past a date and you want to commit any change in, you need to go through this intense review process, which is bubbled up to the program management and the program office. So I think initially when you're working in this cross-functional team, you realize, okay, there's this pipeline. And so if this is the date, you have to make sure you communicate all that you need to the person who's absorbing your change. And that person has to further do it to the line or the pipeline downstream. So I think when you don't know how long that chain is, it gets very hard to estimate. And you realize you really don't have too much time to make your updates or changes that you want to make. So I think I realized that a little, I would say, not the most ideal way, where you have to be on top of your game in terms of realizing when the hard cutoff is for you. And then communication, again, becomes really important and crucial here. I think that's something that in terms of aha moments, not really aha, but I think I've learned that in terms of something that I didn't expect.
I mean, in my case, I was pretty surprised that I was a relatively junior engineer, and I basically took code from a scientist and kind of implemented it in embedded C++ and ported it onto the device. And I was surprised that it actually made it into production. I always thought it was kind of very strict. I had this a notion of there being like these senior engineers who are writing fancy code and, really sophisticated code and then checking in. But it doesn't, it can be anybody who checks in code as long as it works and it passes the tests. So I guess that's something that I was pretty thrilled by. Like when my first code went into production and I was pretty junior, I was like, yeah, it doesn't have to be all, it just has to work.
So I had a question for the two of you in terms how closely do you actually work with the customers? I mean, how close or how far are you from them when you are building your product?
We are pretty close in the sense when we get bugs. So customers can file issues. And so that we do get to see that. So there is a triage process where first it goes to the apps team. And so since I'm not really in the applications team, it's triaged by them. They make sure it's not something in their layer. Then it comes to the algorithms team. So we are connected to customers in that way, in the sense we do get to see what the issues are. And there is a very deliberate attempt, at least by everyone in the company, to make sure we are aware of what customers think of a feature. So that's very crucial. And I think Amazon, especially, maybe Ramya can talk to it, is one of the core principles is customer obsession. So you have to make sure that you're aware of what the customer needs. And so maybe you can.
Plus, it's something that comes out on the Amazon website, like all these Echo products. So you do get to see the reviews. And especially if you're working on a feature that's like more customer facing, yeah, you do get to know their like honest feedback. But yeah, issues can get routed through Jira's and first, get bubbled up to the product team and the program managers, and then get distilled to engineers.
So what have been some standout customer reviews in your experience or your memory? What have some people said and come back that's really stumped you? It's left you bewildered.
So I worked on a next gen Echo product that was basically taking an existing pipeline that was on a previous Echo product and kind of porting it onto a new product. And the development time for that was pretty, like, it was maybe less than 6-7 months. And I was kind of in charge of doing that. And I was nervous when it was actually going to go out and into the hands of customers. And it was, I think, Christmas Day when all the reviews were going to come out. So I was pretty nervous, but then I was thrilled to see, okay, it was a feature that got called out, and performance was I guess not too bad. And I was both relieved. And yeah, and also I've worked on the telephony side of Echo, the communication side. So it's a lot more, when people call to Echo devices, so there's also the Echo cancellation. And so I kind of worked on that part with other engineers, of course. And so I was a little nervous about how customers would, because you have telephony is something that's existed for a while. So, luckily, yeah, it did well, and I was happy.
In my case, actually, there was a recent experience where I worked on this feature, which I thought was an incredible feature in terms of, so it was a feature that was trying to provide safety to children. And the whole team working on the product believed in it, believed that this was for the right use of technology, and everybody believed in the vision of the product. But when it actually got announced, people didn't take it the way that we had envisioned it. That obviously everything has two sides, and the technology can always be put to bad use. When it released, there were concerns about how people could misuse it. That was something that I think I didn't expect, I was really happy and proud working on that feature. And when it got announced, it was the complete 180 degrees. So even though I continue to believe in the product, I could see why customers were worried. But at the same time, I think any technology, there's always a debate. How can you misuse it, right? So I think finally, it'll really depend on how things evolve. But that's something that was new to me in terms of how it felt before the announce and after the announce.
Thank you. A nice one, but I'll hand it over to Gayatri now.
Thank you, Chitra. So I will probably ask you around the innovation that you're talking about, right? You obviously get a requirement or a specific area in which you are working with the product team, and there is a lot of research that goes in and R&D that goes into power, both from an audio side or a telecom side. So I have also seen your LinkedIn profile. I did stalk a little bit and said that you between the two of you have about 21 odd patents that you hold. So I wanted to understand your thinking process, and when you started your first patent, what made you say this? I heard Ramya say that the first time my code went in, it was very empowering. I also want to understand from not just from a software execution, but also the innovation side of things.
I think when we started off, Sowmya and I started off, I think when she mentioned, we started off on a stealth project that was pretty advanced, even for cutting edge, even for today. And I think because of that, we were able to write patents and actually get them approved. So it was just the nature that we were working on something that was cutting edge. And it came out, we started work around 2010, and Echo was kind of an offshoot of that stealth project. So just the fact that it was a cutting edge technology and a product that we could, actually write patents. Yeah, at that time it was, we were new to the industry, and my manager at that time actually encouraged us. So it is something that is encouraged within Amazon and Apple to actually file patents. So it's a whole process. They want you to file patents. You actually have meetings where you sit down, brainstorm, and see what is patentable. And sometimes even things that are implemented can be patented, and because it's going into a new product or a new feature, it gets patented.
Yeah, I think like Ramya said, because we were already working in something that was cutting edge, it's easier to innovate in an area like that. And so everybody was able to figure out something new they could add to the product. And that's how initially we did have a lot of new ideas, and that were patentable. The same even here, because we get to work with new technologies and new hardware and there's a lot of interdisciplinary work that happens in both Amazon and Apple. So because of the nature of the interdisciplinary work, you get to innovate in new ways. And so I think it gets easier depending on what project you are, or the nature of the involvement of other disciplines.
What kind of steps do you think people in software can do if they want to innovate? Any learnings from there?
I think not assuming that your idea is not worth it. Even something very simple, which you think it might seem simple to you. You don't have to be fancy. It can just be something either system level. It can be something that you think of. Just, I think, having that idea itself is good enough. Initially, that like Ramya said, even when she got her code in, she was thrilled because she didn't realize you don't have to have this huge, you don't have to be fancy. So the same thing with ideas, as long as you think it can improve, just prototype it, or just share it with your colleagues. And I think having a very, so I initially in my early years, I had a colleague who was very collaborative, and that helped me a lot. I think having peers around you that you can brainstorm with and can share ideas with, that helps. And never discount any idea of yours. I think that's important.
And sometimes just allotting that time to, brainstorm and think is also good, because sometimes you're just doing your day-to-day work and you just get
sucked into it. So
sometimes just allotting that time and discussing and brainstorming is good.
Yeah, so I will jump in here because I have to ask my questions just related to this. It may be very cliched or trite, but then have you tried pair programming, the two of you?
The two of us?
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to Sowmya I'm looking for help. So I mean, if I run into some build errors or just algorithmic errors, I go to her and I seek for help. But we don't program together.
No, we don't program together.
But
yeah,
given the nature of your work, when there is a lot of R&D, you're looking at probably a problem space which is not even well defined. How do you first identify what will be an acceptable solution? And do you approach these differently between the two of you? Have you ever bounced off ideas to say how you approach the problem or how you try to solve it?
Actually, you would think we would have discussed all this, but I don't think we have actually branched off pretty early. So when she started off, she was in audio and I was in vision. Of course, we discussed our problems, but in terms of how we think differently and how we validate our ideas, I do think one thing we have realized, I think both of us, is start simple. Just the simplest, most basic modules that can get your system working, start with that. Don't get overwhelmed with the complexity of the problem. It's still something that I have to keep reminding myself when I work on new features. But yeah, I think start simple, then see how you can make it modular, and then see how you can improve each module. I think that's how I would go about it. But yeah, I don't know if you.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is keep your fundamentals strong, and sometimes just going back and revisiting your textbooks or buying, books that are subject books are like that's even if you're like say 10 years or 11, 15 years of experience or however long you've been coding, it's always good to kind of take a textbook and just go through theory again. That always helps me.
So if your question was how we do things differently, I don't know if I really know how we do things differently. So the one thing is I've been a little bit more involved in R&D than Ramya has been. So it's been a little different in terms of our deliverables. I think that's probably why
I guess C++ we kind of discuss, and then there's, of course, machine learning fundamentals and signal processing we share. But yeah, she's on the computer vision side of things, does a lot more model training and than I do. I do a lot more embedded C implementation.
I don't know if that answered the question, but
Yes, definitely.
So I have a question for the two of you. Have you? I mean, you worked on such an array of areas, and there are so many problems that are, burning issues that are out there in the world today. Whether it's how people are going to govern the metaverse. There's already two camps, like you mentioned, Sowmya. There's always
I've done my homework on metaverse, but I didn't.
No, there's always the misuse of technology, and then so then immediately you have people weighing in the pros and cons. And today, at least in the world, there seems to be pros and cons on everything, and everything is moving only in extremes. Whether it's physical changes like climate, or whether it's related to our social environment, or whether it's on matters related to ethics, or in general, our entire life seems to be having polar opposites and opinions of everything, and technology is in the middle, in the thick of it all. So have you two ever thought of if you all had this situation where you had to start your own company, what are some of the problems that you would pick up and try to solve? Because you all just mentioned you go to each other, you bounce ideas off each other, you share a lot of stuff. If you had the opportunity to do something, would you do something together? What would it be?
So we did have an idea, but it's nothing as grand as you were mentioning, or as noble as you were mentioning.
But this actually came out, because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Ramya is, both of us like exercise and working out, at least.
We have a morning routine. So I think, and we used to go to the gym, and because of the pandemic that stopped, and we had to work out at home. And I think, it was just some workout app that Sowmya and I worked
We
on.
were thinking get into the health and wellness, which is now a big area. And Ramya is a lot into, she likes reading about nutrition and health and wellness in general. So we were thinking of something in that space where have some way of making it more accessible to somebody like us, where you can anything. So it's not something as grand or noble as tackling climate change or even child safety on platforms, but
I guess create intelligence that does not make humans less intelligent, or too dependent on technology, but actually help you. Certain some technologies do help you. We have not really given it a serious thought, but not, I don't think in the metaverse field, at least.
I just use that as an example of, But you certainly alluded to a space that's close to my heart, at least, which is health and wellness. I think very fundamental to all of us. So if you do something, all the best on that.
Sure, yeah.
I actually, when you started talking about the whole, health and wellness. Being a twin, I want to understand being twin sisters and having a very similar, start of your career. How does it feel like? One is leaning on each other. How often have you done that? Or is it? I know you are in different spaces, right? Or you or in so how does that work when you have a? Like what she was talking about as a pair programming. This is like when we keep in program management world, we keep talking about pairing. For an initiative, we pair with somebody to do it. It's like a collaboration that you spoke about, right? So how do you pair in when things go awry, or even, for example, at home when you want to speak to your parents? How does that work?
Yes, I think our parents probably complain that we
are too close.
But yeah, we do. I think a lot of things. So even when I started off and Ramya and I started doing things differently, which was actually after a very long time, because masters we did our courses together, and only when we came to Amazon, it was that we were in different teams. I realized how much just discussing things with Ramya actually made me more interested in the subject. I took it for granted when I was younger that this is something that probably everybody feels in terms of how they feel towards a subject or some problem area. But I realized what really helped me was having somebody I could discuss it with, making it so it makes it more approachable, less intimidating when you discuss something with another person. And so I didn't realize I had that easy access till I started doing things differently. And luckily, I found somebody in my team who I could do something similar, which I had done with Ramya, and Ramya didn't have that. So there was we could see a clear difference in how anybody can feel towards any area if you have somebody to discuss things with and when you don't. So that's something that struck me, like I said, late in life. But I think we keep discussing. If Ramya runs into problems or I run into problems, we do discuss with each other, and that helps. I think it makes it less intimidating, more approachable, and we actually like things more when we make it more conversational. And
I guess I have the same things to say. I mean, it's helpful to have somebody you can discuss with and go to help for. And I guess the same things
without judgment. So in Ramya's, in my case, I'm not going to judge her if she doesn't know anything. Whereas maybe you'll think twice before you go to a colleague, because you wonder how they will respond to it in terms of how they view your expertise. But without judgment, I think we are a privilege in terms of how we have each other for brainstorming. But at the same time, I think we should realize that we are at the same expertise level. So getting outside advice and counsel for things that probably is not something that we're exposed to, is we should do more often, which I think we do less of. But I think that's something that we have learned.
Very nice. In fact, when you kept talking, I was realizing it's also, if you get over your fear of failure by the sake of talking and starting small, I think I can see the theme falling in place in terms of saying, how do you get started, and having somebody to, pull you along, and just try it, right? Make it happen. Very nicely put down.
Yeah, I had after listening to the two of you, and since you all said that you've had now many years of experience, what is it that you all do to mentor younger people that are coming into the workforce? How do you y'all have had this unique experience, what it's like to have somebody that you can always fall back on unconditionally, that can help you navigate through those tough spots, or help you get unstuck, or just have somebody to air your thoughts with. First question is, how do you nurture that with younger folks that are coming into the workforce? And is there something that y'all have discovered that has worked for y'all in terms of nurturing or mentoring people around you? We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.